smuggled herds of shaggy Canadian steeds onto ships, selling them for a profit in the West Indies. British lords dismissed him as a horse jockey. How the devil could such a plebeian, they muttered, have the gall to— 14 months, a lifetime, had passed since Arnold left his business in the care of his sister and rushed off to join the wild patriotic response that greeted the violence at Lexington and Concord. The previous autumn he had led a band of American soldiers over the Maine mountains to attack Quebec City, gaining a reputation as one of the most audacious of the Patriot officers, America's Hannibal. Now he was overseeing the last days of that spent venture. Every war starts with enthusiasm, followed by a sober recognition of the reality, the cost, and the horror. In Canada, Benedict Arnold had seen men die and had suffered a serious wound to his left leg. He had endured an extraordinarily brutal winter, with drifts of snow creeping toward the top of Quebec's high walls. He had watched smallpox scythe whole companies, had described his men as neglected by Congress below, pinched with every want here. In early May 1776, while Arnold was still recuperating from his injury in Montreal, the first of 10,000 British redcoats had landed at Quebec. Their appearance sparked a disgraceful rout. Fleeing Americans abandoned sick comrades, looted supplies, and ran away in the most helter-skelter manner, leaving behind muskets, ammunition, even clothes. An orderly retreat in the face of the enemy is one of the most difficult of military maneuvers, and in a prolonged contest, one of the most essential. Arnold had looked on in dismay as the shattered and demoralized American army arrived at Sorel, where the Richelieu joined the St. Lawrence. He vowed to do everything possible to keep possession of this country, which has cost us so much blood and expense. In a last-ditch effort to stem the retreat, General Sullivan had boldly sent his men down the St. Lawrence to attack a superior enemy force at Three Rivers. Appointed for his connections rather than his competence, Sullivan had little military experience to draw on. The American attackers were hurled back, losing 300 men in the process. The disaster made Sullivan conclude that he commanded a dispirited army, filled with horror at the thought of seeing their enemy. 5 days later, on June 13th, Arnold wrote to Sullivan, advising him to get out of Canada while he still had an army to lead. The junction of the Canadians with the colonies, an object which brought us into this country, is now at an end. His advice, he insisted, was not motivated by fear for his personal safety. I am content to be the last man who quits this country and fall so that my country rise. But let us not fall together. Events had forced the truth of his words on Sullivan. The British forces, led by Canada's able governor and military leader, General Guy Carleton, soon arrived by ship at Sorel. Sullivan scrambled south to Chambly, a fortified town 50 miles farther south along the Richelieu at the bottom of the rapids. There his men burned gunboats and an army barracks to prevent their use by the enemy, leaving nothing but ruin behind. A rumor of approaching redcoats set off a panic that, Sullivan reported, had the effect of sending great numbers of officers and soldiers upon the run. Those who remained struggled to haul boats loaded with arms and supplies up the long rapids. Wading through the icy water, they manned poles and ropes to drag the vessels against the sharp spring current. A chaplain who accompanied the troops observed, "Our days are days of darkness." From his headquarters in Montreal, Arnold sent an aide, 19-year-old James Wilkinson, to deliver a message to Sullivan at St. John's, 25 miles to the east. Encountering instead a force of British troops, the young man rushed back to raise the alarm. Arnold immediately mustered Montreal's